Um, Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight is October 4th, 2022. And this is UNIA-ACL Division 421. This is our study group that we are using for officers training. And our officers training, we focus on message to the people, course of African philosophy. So first thing we do when starting all of our meetings is we do our pledge to the red, black, and green flag to officially open up the meeting. If you would, please repeat after me. I commit my body, mind, and spirit.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security
to the protection, defense, and security
of the red, the black, and the green.
of the red, black, and the green.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa
And the liberation of her scattered Black children.
and the liberation of our scattered Black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants.
I accept for myself and my descendants
The teachings of universal African nationalism.
the teachings of universal African nationalism.
And I promise that our children will be instilled.
And I
promise that our children will be instilled
With the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
with the purpose and not
purpose and knowledge of themselves of African people.
In order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail. Until all Black people are free and united.
until
All black people are free and united.
Through one God.
through
One God,
One aim.
one aim,
one aim,
And one destiny.
one
one destiny.
Race first.
Race first.
All right. So, all right. One thing that I pulled, we had a. Let me see if I. It may come up later. Yeah, it'll come up later. All right. So, last week we read the foreword and the preface of Message to the People, Course of African Philosophy. So today we'll be going through questions from the foreword and the preface, just to make sure we got a thorough understanding of what information was trying to be conveyed in those two sections. So first question I'll ask is not on here, but I added it as I was putting this together today. Who is the author of the foreword?
No.
Who wrote the foreword?
Charles L. James.
Charles L. James. That sound like Lady President, Sister K.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't even know I was off mute. I was contemplating in my head. I'm sorry. Charles L. James.
Yes, absolutely correct. Charles L. James. We'll get into the importance of Charles L. James and his position, but I wanted to make sure it's understood who we're listening from. First question: how many aims and objectives are there in the UNIA?
11.
Brother Everett, President from Baltimore, correct. There are 11 aims and objectives. Speaking of the 11 aims and objectives, does anyone know which aim and objective this course of African philosophy was created from?
I don't remember. 4?
4 is, I believe, assist the needy.
Okay.
Anybody know? We'll get into
My bad. What was the question, Brother John?
which aim and objective talks about education.
Oh, you stumped us.
Established universities. I can't remember.
We just started. It's lesson 9. I mean, not lesson 9. Aim objective number 9. That we should be able. Yes, we should establish our own institutions as well as systems of education. We can't rely upon the education that's been provided to us by white supremacy. We have to counter that education with our own education, and that's where this course comes from. Second question or third question: what members of the UNIA was the course of African philosophy created for?
Officers, leaders.
Officers, leaders. Anybody else? Okay, correct. On page 9 of the foreword, Charles L. James says, Honorable Marcus Garvey made several attempts to educate some and re-educate others who would be charged with the responsibility of leadership in the UNIA. So yes, leaders, officers. I hope y'all, never mind, that's okay. Next question, which branch or division of the UNIA was responsible for establishing or is responsible for establishing training departments?
Now, yeah, is it just one branch? Because the training departments fall under different things, right? But auxiliaries.
Auxiliaries, anybody else?
Because it's the, yeah, I'm gonna go with auxiliaries.
That's not a bad answer.
Each division does its own.
The brother Art,
Yeah.
correct.
Every division, yeah, but, so I did not understand your question.
In every branch, basically, it's just reminding us that we're all responsible for training. In every branch of the association, training departments were established. And this is from the foreword in the book. So there is a parent body orientation, and I encourage everyone, we should be all participating in the parent body orientation, but each division should also have some type of training, either specific for the division or something that they can provide to the UNIA as a whole. But we shouldn't be waiting to get some training or to have training offered. Number 4, what is the name of the UNIA school that was established in Claremont, Virginia, 1926? Anybody know?
Off the top of our heads, no, but I read it.
It's all right. It's a tough one, but I mean, it's not super critical. Universal Liberty University was the name of the school in Claremont, Virginia. All right, more critical. What year was the first class of the School of African Philosophy taught? When was the first year that Marcus Garvey taught the course of African philosophy?
3 years before he passed 1937.
1937, that is correct.
Yeah.
1937, and the text says after an extensive European tour, but correct. How many students were in the first class of African philosophy?
7.
10 passed, so.
7
11.
from Brother Art, 10 passed from Sister Brenda.
It wasn't 11?
Yeah, this a trick
President
one.
K.
I think it was 11 took the class.
That's right, Sister K. You're right. It's tricky. It's 11, I think. 10 passed, 1 didn't, or something like that.
I don't know if 10 passed either.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I know
never mind then. Forget it.
There were 11 students. Sister K, everyone is correct in some way. Brother Art, save your answer. But for the first class, there were 11 students that took the course. 10 of them passed the course, and Brother Joseph L. Gray of Charleston, Missouri, he was allowed to continue, but he did not pass the course, basically. And I also noticed in 1938, his name was not mentioned for graduates in 38, as far as I remember. So I guess he dropped out or something. But not everybody passed. How many students became president generals? Do we know?
3.
3. Do we know their names?
Stewart, James, and Harvey.
Harvey.
Yes, absolutely correct. Stewart, James, and Harvey, 3 students. And that's the same. I had this question twice. Name of the students that became president generals, but don't worry about that. Which student was the leader of the first class, received the highest grade?
Charles L. James, and he would tell you that too.
Yes, Charles L. James. I guess I need to put that in here. Charles L. James. Charles L. James received the highest grade. And again, he's the writer of the foreword. So he's giving some context as to the history of the class, the purpose of the class, and you know, what our role is today as students and teachers of the class.
Why do you say he's the writer of the foreword when the whole lesson came from his notes and memory, right? I mean, Mr. Garvey created it, but we got it from Brother James.
Yes, but who's the author of the text?
Okay, Mr. Garvey is the author, but you know what? When I take notes, they don't always sound exactly like the instructor.
Well, you probably got a little more information and experience than a lot of us in that context. But what I know, I you know, I'm not trying to recreate anything. All I'm trying to do is understand this information and convey it. The text says that the foreword is written by Charles L. James. And then, like I said, when you look up the author of the text is credited as Marcus Garvey, although the text wasn't published until the 80s, like 85, 86, which is years after Garvey's death, he was still credited as being the author.
Oh, no, I understand it. I understand it. I just was like, it all came from Mr. James's notes and recollections. But you're right, it is Mr. Garvey's lesson.
Next question. Why was the best student, Brother Charles L. James, or President General Charles L. James, why was he hesitant to enroll in the course?
Because he thought he knew it all.
Yes, I can't even add anything to it. He said he had the qualifications, but his ego. He said he had shined Garvey's shoes. He had, you know, heard his speeches, walked with him, you know, for years. So in the text, he actually says that he felt that it would be better if Garvey spent his time with others. But we can't let our egos get in the way of us developing and learning. And if Charles L. James, a brother that was, he said he was the vice president of the New York division that had 40,000 members. Like I said, he walked with Garvey. He actually saw Garvey in his time. If he needed to go through the course, you know, I think all of us in this time that, you know, after Garvey's life, none of us have ever seen him. So who are we to say that we know enough to not go through this course? But ego.
May I add? I just want to say that, like, some of us have gone through this course, but it's been like years before some of you were even members, and we don't remember it. So we have to refresh. And Mr. Garvey even says that you need to go over stuff again. So even if we've done the course, it is good to refresh.
I agree. Yeah, I started, President Ross Marvin instructed the course to us in 2019. Well, to me and a couple of people in 2019, but I try to every year, you know, refresh myself on the course because I feel like it's so much. But all right, next question. We got a lot of questions. What was the schedule of the course of African philosophy taught by Garvey? How many days, how often per day did they study?
Twice a day.
Went together for like 30 days.
Almost 30 days, yeah.
Twice a day for 30 days. Yeah, 30 days and nights, 2 sessions per day. Mass meetings at 8 p.m. So yes, 30 days, day and night. Who was appointed the authentic historian of the life and works of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, and who appointed that individual?
Tony Martin.
Charles
There you go.
Yes.
It's a duo over here.
I hear you.
Dr. Tony Martin. Oh crap. Dr. Tony Martin was appointed official historian by President General Charles L. James. Oh crap. Who owns this course of African philosophy? Who does it belong to?
Oh, this is a tricky one too.
You and I.
said the UNIA, and you said who belong to UNIA, and it's for the leaders. So I don't know. I can't. It's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. Basically, in the text, Charles L. James says that this course is ours.
Yeah,
As far as how we define that leadership of the UNIA, members only, the African race as a whole. I'm not sure how we define that, but I do know as leaders as leaders within the UNIA, we have a heavy responsibility to claim ownership of this course. So,
yeah, and I don't think Brother James would have meant like to just Black people in general.
okay.
He was definitely UNIA, and he was raised first, but he was definitely UNIA. So
Thank you for that additional context. Okay. More questions. What compilation of work is considered the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote?
this one, yeah.
Correct. Course of African Philosophy, a unique document with exception of his poetical works, is the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote. That's why I hold this book to a very high regard when it comes to UNIA philosophy. Well, not philosophy, how we should do things, how things should work. The UNIA Constitution and Message to the People, Course of African Philosophy, I hold those to the highest regard because I know that Garvey himself had direct input. Not to say that the other texts don't, but I just, personally, those are the two that I hold the highest. And I will show, let me see if this is sharing correctly. So for those that were in the orientation course or that are part of orientation course, First Assistant President General Raymond Duguay talked about Marcus Garvey Library and the important books that we should all have as individuals within the UNIA and as divisions. All of our divisions should have these texts in our library. Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Amy Jocks Garvey, Race First, Dr. Tony Martin, Message to the People, Course of African Philosophy, Marcus Garvey, Pan-African Connection from Slavery to Garvey and Beyond by Dr. Tony Martin, African Fundamentalism, Dr. Tony Martin, Amy Ashwood Garvey, Pan-Africanist Feminist and Wife, #1, Marcus Garvey, A Hero, a first biography of Dr. Tony Martin, Poetical Works of Marcus Garvey, and Literary Garveyism by Dr. Tony Martin. And then these extra books as well. But out of all of these, only two are actually from Marcus Garvey himself, and that's Poetical Works and Message to the People, Course on African Philosophy. Okay. All right, let me jump to the next question. Where was I here? What does the Course of African Philosophy represent? Oh, wait, before I get there. Well, yeah, I guess that's what does the Course of African Philosophy represent? And this is the editor's opinion. What did the editors say that this course represents? This is important. It is for me. Y'all there?
The foundation of the Constitution.
I was just talking and I was on mute. I'm sorry.
Foundation of the Constitution.
Last will and testament, last political will and testament.
Absolutely. Secretary General was on top of it. Text says, quote, it represents, as it were, the last political will and testament of a man who stands without equal in the history of worldwide mobilization of African people. So The last political will and testament of Garvey. I feel we should hold this to high regard. We should do our best when we go out into the world and we say that we're Garveyites. We should have at least know what his political will and testament is, and I think we should do our best to carry it out. Next question: what is Garvey's birth and death? I asked for the years, but if you know the exact dates, that's even better. But do we know when Garvey was born, when he transitioned?
August 17th, 87.
Correct.
And
And
1940, was it June
That's
10th,
just not
1940?
correct. You can't say 87. That would mean 1987.
1887.
well, I mean, of course not 1987. I was born 84.
Right. I knew what you meant.
It's June 10th, 1940, right, Brother John? Am I right on that?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I got to add that in here, but yes, August 17th, 1887 to June 10th, 1940, were the years that Garvey was here on this earth. Now, what years was Garvey in the United States? What were the years that Garvey was in the United States?
19 to whoa,
What was the first one you said?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
was it 1917?
No.
1916.
1914. 1913. No, it can't be 1913.
1916.
Yes, 16 is the first date. What's the second one?
When he was
So he came in at 1916. When did he leave the United States?
1927.
1927, correct. 1916 and 1927. But it's only 11 years that he was in the United States. So a lot of the work that we look at, a lot of the accomplishments that we look at was done in a short time of only 11 years. But then, I mean, obviously he did more work outside the United States, but when it comes to the convention, the first international convention, and the first few years of the government that was here in the United States. When and where was the UNIA founded as an organization?
Jamaica, 1914.
Yep.
Yes. July 1914 in Jamaica, correct. How does the editor describe what the course of African philosophy is? So that's a tough question because I kind of asked the same question up here. How does the editor describe what the course of African philosophy is?
Editor. Tony Martin, huh?
Tony Martin is the editor. Yeah, we're still in the preface, but how does he describe what the course of African philosophy is? I don't even know I can't remember this one.
Like a rigid.
Rigid course of discipline.
Yeah, it was something. That's close. It was. Yeah, I can't remember. It was like very strenuous. That's all I can remember. I can't remember though how it's phrased.
Rigorous.
Rigid.
So save what y'all were thinking because I know what y'all are thinking. That comes up later. Tony Martin described this as, he says, quote, "This was nothing less than a distillation of a lifetime of organizational experience." So it talks about Garvey in his elder years and his ability to look back on his life. And this is 1937, as we said, 3 years before his transition. To my knowledge, yeah, he had just turned 50 years old when he started teaching this course. So this was a chance for him to look back and teach, on the lessons that were successful as well as things that were unsuccessful. Any questions? Okay. What was the immediate purpose of the course of African philosophy?
And a compadre of leaders.
Cadre of leaders.
Something like that. Train a compadre of leaders to go.
Carry on the work. Carry on.
Yeah.
vision, goals,
Yes,
aims.
cadre of leaders to carry on, who would carry on the great work of the organization after Garvey's death. So that's where we are. That's where we have been our entire lives. But we are, in the time after Garvey's death. So, where else, should we be looking for our direction other than this text? So just another reminder of the importance of the text. What was the requirement to pass the courses that were taught by Marcus Garvey? What did the
Pass the
students have to
exam
do?
and write the courses. Pass the exam and write the 22 lessons.
Yes. Required to write out each lesson in his or her own handwriting and examinations. So if individuals cannot go through all of the courses as a class, they feel like they may have missed something or they don't feel comfortable going into an exam, you can write out the lessons in your own handwriting, and that would also suffice for completion of the course. But yeah, we're no better than our ancestors, so we should at least be doing, what they did, if not more. Next one, how many lessons or subjects were there in total, and what was the difference in the types of lessons?
There was 20 verbal lessons or unread lessons, 22 written lessons. So I think there were 42 in total.
That is what I understood. Let me see. But I think it says over, yeah. When we read it last week, I saw that it said over 42 subjects. So there are 22 that were written, but they're based on that statement, there's over 20 that are unwritten that were required to be committed to memory. But over 42 subjects, 22 written and the rest unwritten. What was Garvey's beliefs about the course of African philosophy? How did Garvey feel about it? What did he think about this course? What did he say it was?
That's the answer I think that Sister Kay and Brother Everett gave earlier.
I think so. Anybody? I'm gonna have to go because
Rigorous.
what's that?
Rigorous, isn't that what they said? What did you all say? Give your answer again.
They ain't sure.
Most rigid system of training.
Yes. Garvey described this course as a most rigid system of training to develop a fierce Afrocentric view of the world. He said the course would instill, quote, an independent outlook, a philosophy entirely Negroid, void of anything that will subjugate the mind of the Negro. Rigid system of training to instill the Afrocentric view. Number 11, how has the white man built up his system of superiority, according to Course of African Philosophy?
He imposed his viewpoint of the world on the rest of the people.
Something like that. Garvey in the text, it says, always repeat statements that will give your race status and advantage. And then he follows that and says that's how the white man built up his system of superiority. Repeating statements that will give your race status and advantage. Race first. What was Garvey's view on Karl Marx and communism?
Something about it tricking Black folks into thinking that it was for them or something of that nature. But he basically, bottom line is he ain't too fool with them folks.
He thought he was ignorant. He didn't know Black people. He didn't know about Black people. He didn't care about Black people. He thought nothing of Black people, and that we were supposed to follow him when he was just ignorant. Yeah.
Yes. it says, according to Garvey, Karl Marx knew very little about Negroes, and Karl Marx thought and wrote less about Negroes. And then it also says communism seeks to put government in the hands of an ignorant white mass. So it has nothing to do with us. It's not for us. Wasn't designed for us or by us. So we should ignore it and develop systems for our own benefit. What was Garvey's view on Jews, on the Jewish race or nation?
It was basically the same.
Anyone else? Anybody? Same?
That they were self-reliant, built for themselves too, but pretty much the same as the Marx community.
I mentioned a duality of attitude. He said he praised their solidarity and resented their positions of influence and power. But when I go through the text, I'm not going to say Garvey was envious of Jews, but he saw the potential of the Jews and how they work together, and wanted to apply that same philosophy with the African race. So he respected who they were and what they did, but he resented their positions of power and influence. What did Garvey say about the majority of Negroes?
I do want to make sure that I wasn't, because I would be thinking.
Sister K, your line is open if you were responding. Garvey's position on majority of Negroes.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the question again.
Uneducated, was that it?
You in the right
Uneducated.
ballpark. Yeah, pretty much. But Garvey said the majority of Negroes were ignorant. And he followed that up with just as basically we have to be patient. As Christianity took time to make our people what they are now, we have to be patient with our people to help basically reinstill the Afrocentric viewpoint. But he did say majority of Negroes were ignorant in his opinion. Last couple questions, and then we'll start the reading for lesson 1. When was the second class taught, and how many graduates were in the second class?
It was 7 for the second one.
7?
I think.
What year?
Was maybe. I remember. It was years later. I know that much. I'm trying to think.
Anybody want to help?
I thought it was the next year.
Was it?
Because he died 3 years after the first class, so I don't actually can't remember. I'm going to say 1938. I don't know.
Yes, he instructed the course. He started to instruct the course in 1938. He said it was a correspondence course from his office in London. And then they announced the graduates in June 1939. There was a publication that announced the 7 graduates. So between the time of September 38 is probably when they did the course, and then the graduates were announced June the following year, 39.
No, it was a correspondence course. It probably took them a year because they had to do their lessons or whatever, mail stuff back.
You're right. You're right. I didn't think about that. And it's way back then, so they mailing it across the water.
Right. So it probably took them quite a while to complete the lessons. So.
Next question. What was the original intent of Garvey's trip to the United States in 1916? Why was Garvey originally coming to the United States in 1916?
He wanted to set up agricultural school or lessons or something. He wanted to meet.
I thought he wanted.
Booker T, right? To meet Booker
Didn't he
T.
want to
Washington.
start a division? Oh, yeah, he wanted to go to there too, to Booker, to Tuskegee.
He wanted to go
Right.
to Tuskegee and get
Yeah.
education
Yep.
to start a school or some kind of training, agriculture and something.
Yes.
Agriculture and industrial in Jamaica.
So
That's
Garvey was originally planning a fundraising tour for the UNIA's projected agricultural and industrial school in Jamaica, but he was going to model it after Tuskegee Institute that Booker T. Washington established. So his original intent for the trip was only a fundraising tour to build back in Jamaica. But once he got here and saw the potential of African Americans, this is where he built his base.
And he, part of it we've always been taught is that he also wanted to meet Booker T.
Booker T. Washington, yes.
Yeah.
That was his. And that's something else I need to talk to First Assistant President General about, because when we talked about in the orientation, they highlighted some of the influences that Garvey had, but I didn't feel like Booker T. Washington got enough credit. But that's something that.
And that's probably because Garvey never met him.
Okay, but okay. I mean, but when it comes to inspiration, to my knowledge, it was Up From Slavery that gave him a call to be a leader.
Correct, but that's still reading the book. That's not the person.
Personal meeting. Okay.
Garvey didn't know him personally.
Makes sense. All right, next question. When was the School of African Philosophy agreed upon by the UNIA as a whole, and what were the circumstances? So why did the UNIA want to do School of African Philosophy, and when did that happen?
Because of number 9, as we said earlier.
Pretty much. I kind of did spill the beans on that a little bit. In 1934, I guess there was a convention in 1934. And the text talks about this more in detail, but the School of African Philosophy had itself been in the making from as early as 1934, following, as we said, aim and objective number 9, to have institutions to educate our people. So, okay. Next question. It's a statement from Garvey, a quote from Garvey: blank rules the world and blank carries the burden. What rules the world? What carries the burden?
Money.
Money rules the world, and what can
Oh my goodness, I forgot this. Oh Jesus. Hold on, I can't remember.
this is
Intelligence rules the world.
correct. That's 50%.
Ignorance carries the burden.
Absolutely. Yeah. Intelligence rules the world. Ignorance carries the burden.
Mama said money rules the world.
I can't necessarily say she's wrong.
Intelligence, you said, and what was the other part?
Ignorance carries the burden. Intelligence rules the world. Ignorance carries the burden. Okay. Second to last question, then we'll go into our reading. What was the first education endeavor that Garvey himself was able to conduct from start to finish?
Was it this course?
Yes. It is fitting that the UNIA's last educational endeavor in Garvey's lifetime should have been the first that he was himself able to conduct from start to finish. But again, it's just adding a level of reverence to this text and to this course, in my opinion. Last question. What were Garvey's 2 quotes that he gave to the people in Detroit in 1937? So this is how the introduction closes out, or the preface closes out.
Up your mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. I'm sure he said that, but
I
as
didn't
far
read it
as
yet.
highlighted in the book and pulled out of the book at the end of the preface.
I think it has to do with the lessons teaching.
Yes,
I have given them all I know,
yes, that's one.
and I am trying to make everyone a Marcus Garvey personified.
Correct. So that closes out the preface, but that takes us into lesson one, and that's the mindset that I want us to have as we go through this course. But as we said, Garvey started this in 1937 at the age of 50. His ability to look back on his life, lessons learned, and this is what he's saying. He's saying he's given us all that he knows, and his goal is to make everyone a Marcus Garvey personified. So, any questions on anything that we read or didn't go over from the foreword and the preface? Okay. All right, it's 8:50 now. Let's see, where on schedule. So we're a few minutes behind, but now we will go into the reading for lesson one. Let's see. And again, just before we go into the reading, are there any questions on anything that we read or discussed thus far? Okay. Brother Macis, will you be reading, or you want me to read again?
I got you.
Thank you, my brother. Let me see. Is these? It looks okay because I can't really zoom in. Let me see. Control. Yeah, I can. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I got it. Yep. There it goes. Lesson one: intelligence, education, universal knowledge, and how to get it. You must never stop learning. The world's greatest men and women were people who educated themselves outside of the university. With all the knowledge that the university gives,
Oh, Macy's.
you have the, yes.
1 second. Let me. I just want to go over the questions really quick. We'll go over them in detail next week. Oh crap! I can't do that. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you read, and then I'll just do this in the background. Sorry. My apologies. You go ahead.
You want to go over the questions?
I don't have it set up yet, so I gotta do some cleaning up in the background while you read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lesson one. All right. You must never stop learning. The world's greatest men and women were people who educated themselves outside of the university. With all the knowledge that the university gives, and you have the opportunity of doing the same thing the university students does, read and study. One must never stop reading. Read everything that you can read that is of standard knowledge. Don't waste time reading trashy literature. This is to say, don't pay any attention to the 10-cent novels, Wild West stories, and cheap sentimental books. But where there is a good plot and a good story in the form of a novel, read it. It is necessary to read it for the purpose of getting information on human nature. The idea is that personal experience is not enough for a human to get all of the useful knowledge of life, because the individual life is too short. So we must feed on the experience of others. The literature we read should include the biography and autobiography of men and women who have accomplished greatness in their particular life. Whenever you can buy these books and own them, and whilst you are reading them, make pencil or pen notes of the striking sentences and paragraphs that you should like to remember, so that when you have to refer to the book for any thought that you would like to refresh your mind on, you will not have to read over the whole book. You should also read the best poetry for inspiration. The standard poets have always been the most inspirational creatures. From a good line of poetry, you may get the inspiration for the career of a lifetime. Many a great man and woman was first inspired by some attractive line or verse of poetry. There are good poets and bad poets, just like there are good novels and bad novels. Always select the best poets for your inspirational urge. Read history incessantly until you master it. This means your own national history, the history of the world, social history, industrial history, and the history of the different sciences, but primarily the history of man. If you do not know what went on before you came here and what is happening at the time you live, but away from you, you will not know the world and will be ignorant of the world and mankind. You can only make the best of life by knowing and understanding it. To know, you must fall back on the intelligence of others who came before you and have left their records behind. To be able to read intelligently, you must first be able to master the language of your country. To do this, you must be well acquainted with the grammar and the science of it. Every 6 months, you should read over again the science of the language that you speak, so as not to forget its rules. People judge you by your writing and your speech. If you write badly and incorrectly, they become prejudiced towards your intelligence. And if you speak badly and incorrectly, those who hear you become disgusted and will not pay much attention to you, but in their hearts laugh after you. A leader who is to teach men and present any fact of truth to a man must first be learned in his subject. Never write or speak on a subject you know nothing about, for there's always somebody who knows that particular subject to laugh at you or ask you embarrassing questions that may make others laugh at you. You can know about any subject under the sun by reading about it. If you cannot buy the books outright and own them, go to your public circulating library in your district or town so as to get the use of the books. You should do that as you may refer to them for information. You should read at least 4 hours a day. The best time to read is in the evening after you have retired from your work and after you have rested and before sleeping hours. But do so before morning so that during your sleeping hours, what you have read may become subconscious. That is to say, planted in your memory. Never go to bed without doing some reading. Never keep the constant company of anybody who doesn't know as much as you or is as educated as you, and from whom you cannot learn something or reciprocate your learning, especially if that person is illiterate or ignorant, because constant association with such a person will unconsciously cause you to drift into the peculiar culture of ignorance of that person. Always try to associate with people from whom you can learn something. Contact with cultured persons and with books is the best companionship you can have and keep. By reading good books, you keep the company of the authors of the books, of the subjects of the books, when otherwise you could not meet them in the social contact of life. Never go down in intelligence to those who are below you, but if possible, help to lift them up to you, and always try to ascend to those who are above you and be their equal with the hope of being their master. Continue always in the application of the things you desire educationally, culturally, or otherwise, and never give up until you reach the objective. And you can reach the objective if others have done so before you, proving by their doing it that is possible. If your desire to accomplish greatness, you must first decide in your own mind in what direction you desire to seek that greatness. And when you have so decided in your own mind, work unceasingly towards it. The particular thing that you may want should be before you all the time, and whatsoever it takes to get it or make it possible should be undertaken. Use your faculties and persuasion to achieve all you set your mind on. They try never to repeat yourself in any one discourse in saying the same thing over and over again, except you are making new points, because repetition is tiresome and it annoys those who hear the repetition. Therefore, try to possess as much universal knowledge as possible through reading so as to be able to be free of repetition in trying to drive home a point. No one is ever too old to learn. Therefore, you should take advantage of every educational facility. If you should hear of a great man or woman who is to lecture or speak in your town on any given subject, and the person is an authority on the subject, always make time to go and hear him. This is what is meant by learning from others. You should learn the two sides to every story so as to be able to properly debate a question and hold your ground with the side that you support. If you only know one side of a story, you cannot argue intelligently nor effectively. As for instance, to combat communism, you must know about it. Otherwise, people will take advantage of you and win a victory over your ignorance. Anything that you are going to challenge, you must first know about it so as to be able to defeat it. The moment you are ignorant about anything, the person who has the intelligence of that thing will defeat you. Therefore, get knowledge, get it quickly, get it studiously, but get it anyway. Knowledge is power. When you know a thing and can hold your ground on that thing and win over your opponents on that thing, those who hear you learn to have confidence in you and will trust your ability. Never, therefore, attempt anything without being able to protect yourself on it. For every time you are defeated, it takes away from your prestige and you are not as respected as before. All the knowledge you want is in the world, and all that you have to do is go seeking it and never stop until you have found it. You can find knowledge or the information about it in the public libraries. If it is not on your own bookshelf, try to have a book and own it on every bit of knowledge you want. You may generally get these books at secondhand bookstores for sometimes 1/5 of the original value. Always have a well-equipped shelf of books. Nearly all information about mankind is to be found in the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is an expensive set of books, but try to get them. Buy a complete edition for yourself and keep it at your home. And whenever you are in doubt about anything, go to it and you will find it there. The value of knowledge is to use it. It is not humanly possible that a person can retain all knowledge of the world. But if a person knows how to search for all the knowledge in the world, he will find it when he wants it. A doctor or a lawyer, although he passes examination in college, does not know all the laws, and does not know all the techniques of medicine, but he has the fundamental knowledge. When he wants a particular kind of knowledge, he goes to the medical books or law books and refers to the particular law or how to use the recipe of medicine. You must therefore know where to find your facts and use them as you want them. No one will know where you get them, but you will have the facts. And by using the facts correctly, they will think you a wonderful person, a great genius, and a trusted leader. In reading, it is not necessary or compulsory that you agree with everything you read. You must always use or apply your own reasoning to what you have read based upon what you already know as touching the facts on what you have read. Pass judgment on what you read based upon these facts. When I say facts, I mean things that cannot be disputed. You may read thoughts that are old and opinions that are old and have changed since they were written. You must always search to find out the latest facts on a particular subject, and only when these facts are consistently maintained in what you read should you agree with them. Otherwise, you are entitled to your own opinion. Always have up-to-date knowledge. You can gather this from the latest books and the latest periodicals, journals, and newspapers. Read your daily newspaper every day. Read a standard monthly journal every month, a standard weekly magazine every week, a standard quarterly magazine every quarter. And by this, you will find the new knowledge of the whole year, in addition to the books you read, whose facts have not altered in that year. Don't keep old ideas, bury them as new ones come. How to read. Use every square minute you have in reading. If you are going on a journey that will take you an hour, carry something with you to read for that hour until you have reached that place. If you are sitting down waiting for somebody, have something in your pocket to read until the person comes. Don't waste time. Anytime you think you have to waste, put it in reading something. Carry with you a small pocket dictionary, and study words while waiting or traveling, or a small pocket volume on some particular subject. Read through at least one book every week. Separate and distinct from your newspaper and journals. It will mean that at the end of 1 year, you will have read 52 different subjects. After 5 years, you will have read over 250 books. You may be considered then a well-read man or a well-read woman. And there will be a great difference between you and the person who has not read one book. You will be considered intelligent and the other person will be considered ignorant. You and the person, therefore, will be living in two different worlds. One of the world of ignorance and the other, the world of intelligence. Never forget that intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Therefore, remove yourself as far away from ignorance as possible and seek as much as possible to be intelligent. Your language being English, you should study the English language thoroughly. To know the English language thoroughly, you ought to be acquainted with Latin, because most of the English words are of Latin origin. It is also advisable that you know the French language, because most of the books that you read in English carry Latin and French phrases and words. There is no use reading a page or a paragraph of a book, or even a sentence, without understanding it. If the paragraph has foreign words in it, go to the dictionary before you pass over the words. If you don't know the meaning of the words, never pass over a word without knowing its meaning. The dictionary and the books on word building that can be acquired from booksellers will help you greatly. I know a boy who was ambitious to learn. He didn't have the opportunity of an early school education because he had to work 10 hours a day. He was determined to learn, so he took to work with him every day a simplified grammar. He would read and memorize passages and the rules of grammar while at work. After 1 year, he was almost an expert in the grammar of his language. He knew the different parts of speech. He could paraphrase, analyze, and construct sentences. He also took with him a pocket dictionary, and he would write out 25 new words with their meaning every day and study those words and their meanings. After 1 year, he had a speaking vocabulary of more than 3,000 words. He continued this for several years, and when he became a man, he had a vocabulary of over 15,000 words. He became an author because he could write in his language, because he had command of the words. What he wrote was his experience, and he recorded his experience in the best words of his language. At the same time, he was not able to write properly, and so he took with him to work what is called a copying book, and he practiced the copying of letters until he was able to write a very good hand. He naturally became acquainted with literature, so he continued reading extensively. When he died, he was one of the greatest scholars the world ever knew. Apply the story to yourself. There is nothing in the world that you want that you cannot have, so long as it's possible in nature and man have achieved it before. The greatest men and women in the world burned the midnight lamp. That is to say, when their neighbors and households are in bed, they are reading, studying, and thinking. When they rise in the morning, they are always ahead of their neighbors and their household in the thing that they were studying, reading, and thinking of. A daily repetition of that will carry them daily ahead and above their neighbors and household. Practice this rule. It is wise to study a couple of subjects at a time. As for instance, a little geography, a little psychology, a little ethics, a little theology, a little philosophy, a little mathematics, a little science on which a sound academic education is built. By doing this week after week, month after month, year after year, you will be so learned in the liberal arts as to be ready and fit for your place in the affairs of the world. If you know what others do not know, they will want to hear you. You will then become invaluable in your community and to your country, because men and women will want to hear you and see you everywhere. As stated before, books are one's best companions. Try to get them and keep them. A method of doing so is every time you have 10 cents or 25 cents or $1 to spend foolishly, either on your friends or yourselves, think how much more useful if that 10 or 25 cents or $1 would be invested in a book, and so invested. It may be just the thing you have been looking for to give you to give you a thought by which you may win the heart of the world. Your 10 cents, 25 cents, or $1, therefore, may turn out to be an investment of worth to the extent of $1 million. Never lend any book the book that you want. Never lend anybody the book that you want. You will never get it back. Never allow anybody to get to your bookshelf in your absence, because the very book that you may want most may be taken away from the shelf, and you may never be able to get one of that kind again. If you have a library of your own, lock it when you are not at home. Spend most of your spare time in your library. If you have a radio, keep it in your own library and use it exhaustively to listen to lectures, recitals, speeches, and good music. You can learn a lot from the radio. You could be inspired a lot by good music. Good music carries the sentiment of harmony, and you may think many a good thought out of listening to good music. Read a chapter of the Bible every day, Old and New Testament. The greatest wisdom of the age is to be found in the scriptures. You can always quote from the scriptures. It is the quickest way of winning approval. Tragedy of White Injustice. Read and study thoroughly the poem, Tragedy of White Injustice, and apply its sentiments and statements in connection with the historic character and behavior of the white man. Know it so well as always to be able to be on guard against any professions of the white man in his suggested friendship for the Negro. The poem exposes the white man's behavior in history and is intended to suggest distrust of him in every phase of life. Never allow it to get into the hands of a white man if possible. You can improve your English as you go along by reading critically the books of the language. That is to say, you must pay close attention to the construction of sentences and paragraphs as you see them in the books you read. Imitate the style. Read with otherwise, never read carelessly and recklessly. In reading books written by white authors of whatsoever kind, be aware of the fact that they are not written for your particular benefit or for the benefit of your race. They always write from their own point of view and only in the interest of their own race. Never swallow wholly what the white man writes or says without first critically analyzing it and investigating it. The white man's trick is to deceive other people for his own benefit and profit. Always be on your guard against him to whatsoever he does or says. Never take chances with him. His school books in the elementary and high schools, colleges and universities are all fixed up to suit his own purpose, to put him on top and to keep him on top of other people. Don't trust him. Beware, 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 beware. You should study carefully the subject of ethnology. It is the subject that causes races to know the difference between one race and another. Ethnic relationships are important, for they reveal the characteristics of one people as different from another. There is no doubt that each race has different habits and manners of behavior. You must know them so as to be able to deal with them. There are books on this, subjects in the library. In your readings and searching for truths, always try to get that which is particularly helpful to the Negro. Every thought that strikes you, see how it fits in with the Negro and to what extent you can use it to his benefit or in his behalf. Your entire obsession must be to see things from the Negro's point of view, remembering always that you are a Negro, striving for Negro supremacy in every department of life, so that any truth you see or any facts you gather must be twisted to suit the Negro psychology of things. The educational system of today hides the truth as far as the Negro is concerned. Therefore, you must searchingly scan everything you read, particularly history, to see what you can pick out for the good of the race. For instance, you will read that Egyptians were great people, the Carthaginians, Libyans, etc. But you will not be told that they were Black people or Negroes. Therefore, you should go beyond the mere statement of these events to discover the truth that will be credible to your race. Therefore, in a case like that, you would ask, where did the Libyans, Carthaginians, or Egyptians get their civilization from? Following that kind of investigation, you will come upon the truth that is, was all original Negro and subsequently became Negroid. That is to say, subsequent people were mixed with other people's blood who were no doubt conquered by the Negro. As a fact, the original Egyptians were Black men and women, and so the Carthaginians and Libyans, but in the later centuries, they became mixed in blood, just as the Blacks are being mixed in America and the West Indies by the infusion of white blood through domination of the white man. Never yield to any statement in history or statement made by any individual caring not how great that the Negro was. Nobody in history. Even if you cannot prove it, always claim that the Negro was great. Read everything you can get written by Negroes and their ancestry. Going back 6,000 years, there are statements in the Bible, in the Old and New Testament, to show that Black was always an important color among the races of man. Abraham had company with a Black woman, even though he had his wife, Sarah, by whom he had Ishmael. All the original pharaohs were Black. Tutankhamun, whose bones and body were dug up not very long ago at Luxor in Egypt, was a black pharaoh. The Sphinx in Egypt, which has stood through the millenniums, has black features. It is evident that as art was portrayed to teach us of the greatness of man, when you are dealing with Jews, let them know that they were once your slaves in Egypt. You have to say so. There is good grounds for saying that civilization started in Africa and passed from and through northern Africa into the southern Europe, from which the Greeks and Romans and the people of Asia Minor made good copies. The swarthy of the Asiatics and the brunette color of the Southern Europeans are due to the fact that the cultured and civilized blacks of Africa mix their blood with them. Search all history and all literature and the Bible and find facts to support these arguments and hold to it with a grip that will never loosen. Things that may not be true can be made so if you repeat them long and often enough. Therefore, always repeat statements that will give your race status and an advantage. That is how the white man has built up his system of superiority. He is always telling you he is superior, and he has written history and literature to prove it. You must do the same. One of the great backgrounds for your argument, which cannot be disputed, is that you are older than any other man as a race because you are black. Your argument is that in nature, everything by way of age darkens. Because you are darker than the rest of men proves logically that you are older than the rest of men. Another proof of that is that even among white people, they grow darker in the skin as they grow older in age and in lifetime. In one individual where to live for 6,000 years, he would surely not be white. If he were born white, he would be as dark as the darkest of men. Therefore, the argument that black man is black because as man, he is older than the other man is good. Use it everywhere you go to defeat the white man in his belief that you sprung from something else. Use the argument that the white man is white because most of the time, when the black man was great in Africa and had succeeded in running him across the Mediterranean and Southern Europe, he had to hide himself in the caves where there was very little light and air. He was almost covered for most of the time in darkness. In natural creation, the child in the womb of the mother is almost white, even though it is a black child. It is almost born white and doesn't change in color until it comes to contact with light and air. Living in caves for many centuries, the white man therefore became colorless, and the length of time made it so that he was born naturally white. You must interpret anthropology to suit yourself. The things for you to do is to refute every pertinent statement of the white man that tends to degrade you and to elevate him. Turn the tables on him and search for all reasons in the world you can find to justify it. That is how new thoughts are given out by creation. Never yield to the statement of your inferiority. In reading Christian literature and accepting the doctrine of Jesus Christ, lay special claim to your association with Jesus and the Son of God. Show that while the white and yellow worlds, that is to say, the worlds of Europe and Asia Minor, persecuted and crucified Jesus, the Son of God, it was the black man, the black race through Simon, the black Cyrenian, who befriended the Son of God and took up the cross and bore it alongside of him up to the heights of Calvary. Therefore, the Roman Catholics have no rightful claim to the cross, nor any other professing Christian before the Negro makes his claim. The cross is the property of the Negro in his religion because it was he who bore it. Never admit that Jesus was a white man. Otherwise, he cannot be the Son of God and the God to redeem all mankind. Jesus Christ has the blood of all races in his veins. And tracing the Jewish race back to Abraham and to Moses, from which Jesus sprang through the line of Jesse, you will find Negro blood everywhere. Therefore, Jesus had mostly Negro blood in him. Reading the genealogical tree of Jesus in the Bible, and you will learn from where he sprang. It is a fact that the white man has borrowed his civilization from other peoples. The first civilization was the Negroes, black people. The second civilization was the brown peoples, Indians. The third civilization belonged to yellow people, the Chinese or Mongols. The last civilization up to the present belongs to the white man. All civilizations goes back to the black man in the Nile Valley of Africa. Therefore, In your reading, search for all these facts. Never stop reading and never stop until you find the proof of them. You must pay great attention to sociology. Get the best books on the subject that you can and read them thoroughly. Find out the social relationships among other races so that you may know how to advise your people in their social behavior. Never admit that the Negro is more immoral than the white man. Try to prove the contrary. Socially, the white man has debauched and debased all other races because of his dominant power. He's responsible for more illegitimacy among the races than any other race. He has left bastard children everywhere he has been. Therefore, he is not competent to say that he is socially and morally purer than any other race. The mixed population among Negroes from slavery to the present in certain countries is due to the white man's immorality. Therefore, if you should hear anyone talking about moral depravity among Negroes and the moral excellence of the whites, draw the above facts to their attention. When through reading and research, you have discovered any new facts helpful to the dignity, prestige, character, and accomplishments of the Negro, always make a noise about it. You should always keep with you a notebook and fountain pen or indelible pencil, and make a note in that book of anything you hear or see that you would like to remember. Always keep at home a larger notebook in which you must transfer the thought or experience so that it will not be lost to your memory. At least once every 3 months, read over the book. And as the book becomes more voluminous with facts, read it over at least once a year. Be constantly reading these facts. I apologize. Be constantly reading these facts. Sorry. Okay. By constantly reading these facts, they will be planted in your subconscious mind, and you will be able to use them without even knowing that you are doing so. By keeping your facts and your very important experiences on record, at the end of a full life, you may have a volume of great value, such as Albert Hubert's scrapbook. Get a copy of this book. It contains valuable inspiration. Always have a thought. Always make it a beautiful thought. The world is attracted to beauty, either in art or in expression. Therefore, try to read, think, and speak beautiful things. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the minute of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Invictus by William Ernest Henley.
Great job, First Vice President Brother Macias. It actually took us 2 lessons to get through lesson 1 last year. That's a long lesson. Brother Macias did an excellent job knocking that out.
I was getting tired there. My voice was.
I was looking for a place to stop, but you got through the whole thing. So.
I had to see it through.
I agree. You did a great job.
Well, it's 9:25. We're getting ready to close soon. I did want to open the floor. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Secretary General.
All right. The tragedy of white injustice.
Yep, I was gonna pull that up.
Okay, cool. I love that little booklet.
I was gonna close out with that. I thought it was a poem. It's a book.
It's like a little booklet. It's like 24 pages. And it is written like a poem, but like each verse talks about white folks. I mean, it's like the way he says it, it's just like, number 1, lying and stealing is a white man's game. For rights of God nor man, he has no shame. A practice of his throughout the whole world, at all great thunderbolts he has hurled. He has stolen everywhere, land and sea. a buccaneer and a pirate he must be, killing all as he roams from place to place, leaving disease, mongrels, moral disgrace. So, yeah, I mean, so it's like, I don't know, how many pages is that?
I think it said 24 pages.
Yeah, that's what it is, 24 pages. That's like a
Sister
little,
Brenda, that was off the top of your head?
no, I was reading from the booklet.
Oh, I'm about to say you really sharp. Good God Almighty.
Mukaraba, hold on. How you writing on my stuff?
You can erase it.
Hold on. Where's the eraser?
It's in the,
Annotate.
say again?
It's an annotate.
Right, it's in annotate.
Gotcha.
Okay, and you don't even have to erase. You could go like just click, you could just click to remove them all and remove any writing.
So yeah, that's a text that a supplementary text that we all should have and be aware of. I thought it was a poem, but
It is like a, it's written like a poem. So it's like a poem, but each one he gives another little jewel of like how they are. You know? So yeah, I think it's nice. I didn't realize you could get it, you could see it online like that. Can you
well,
buy it?
it's a preview version, so I can't see everything.
Yeah, I saw it stop.
Yeah.
But can you buy it?
Yes, I'm sure. Let me see.
Yep, that's what it looks like, just like that. The little blue and white thing.
So,
And so it's just a little booklet.
Amazon.
Okay, that was my question. So maybe they got a new version, an updated version of it. That's the yeah, that says the same thing. So
Third edition.
third edition.
Got Garvey's name. That's good, but I've gotten books from Amazon that are inaccurate. Particularly Course of African Philosophy. When I got it off Amazon, it wasn't the same as the blue and white one.
Oh, that's because it's what, out of copyright, so other people can
Rewrite it.
get their version.
Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. And
The blue and white one, it says 1935.
really,
But I know this isn't that old. It's yellow, but it's not that old.
okay.
All right, well, that's nice to know. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Any other questions, comments before we move to close? Okay, so we will be back next week. I have several questions from lesson 1, so I would advise everyone to reread lesson 1 throughout the week, and then we'll have some questions next Tuesday. And also next Tuesday, we'll read lesson 2, leadership, which is fairly short from what I remember.
Okay, I do have one other question.
Yes.
And that's, I'm looking at the participants, and some people I don't know. So, you know them? Do you know their officers?
Good observation. Hold on. Most, let's see, Sister K, Brother Macias, Lady President Mukaraba, Brother Everett, Brother Bruce, Brother Art is for Division 421, and yourself and myself. KFTP, is that one of the Baltimore brothers or sisters?
Division 121.
KFTP is 121. Okay. And
Who is it? Wait, who is it?
Sister Kara Stevenson, I believe.
And what office does she hold?
She doesn't hold an office as of yet. It's a requirement for all the members that are looking to be officers. We have our elections in December, so it's a requirement for our members to take, those that are seeking to be officials.
Okay.
And Secretary General, we have the same position in Atlanta for those that are serious about being an officer. We don't want to have to wait until they're elected, and because we do elections in June. So Brother Art would fit that category. He is seeking training to be an officer. So
Okay.
what are your thoughts?
Marlissa?
Marlissa, yeah, Marlissa.
That I believe is Sister Barbara Francois, recording secretary.
Yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't change the name. My daughter set her name on this, and that's Lisa's my daughter. I'm Barbara.
All right. Greetings, Sister Barbara. Haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, I've heard you. We have not seen each other, but I've heard your voice.
No, I met you when I was in Philadelphia.
Oh, I know, but I've said I've been online.
Yeah, I've seen your name too. That's good. All right. Well, thank you. I just wondered. All right. So I know what I sent out said that it was for officers only.
Mhm.
So do you want to let divisions know that they should send potential officers also?
I have
Yes.
that memo. I would just like to say I did send that memo to all the members that I have email addresses to. So everyone in Division 121 at very least knows that it is a requirement. I can tag you in some of those correspondences just so that you're aware of what the messages that have been sent out. So that has gone out for Division 121 at least.
Okay, so you let your division know.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just wondering if the other divisions know.
Well, that's the way we've done it, Secretary General, is I let the leadership, the division presidents know what we've got going on, and anyone that they feel should be a part of the course, we allow them to open it up to those members.
Okay, and I put you on the agenda if you saw it for tomorrow's meeting, division president's meeting.
I saw you sent the email. I didn't look at it, but okay.
I got the course, so you can let them know that it's open.
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right.
I didn't have anything else. Anybody have anything before we move to close? Okay, let me see. Yeah, we officially closed. I think I pushed it to like 9:35, just give ourselves a few minutes, but there's no reason to stay longer than we have to. We'll close out with the motto of the organization. If you would, please come off mute and repeat after me. One God.
One
God.
One God,
One aim.
One aim,
aim,
One destiny.
One
one destiny.
Africa.
Africa.
Africa,
For the Africans.
the Africans,
Those at home
For those
those
at
at
home
home,
and those abroad.
and those
those
abroad.
abroad.
First, family.
Face first, family. Great job, Brother John.
Thank
so
you.
much. Great,
Yeah.
John.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all
Excellent
next-
job, brother.
And thank you too for doing this.
Thank you, Lady President.